Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thanks for joining us today for this gallery talk for Boozing Beauty. You're in for a real treat from our curator of contemporary art, Jade. And without further ado, I'll let her get started.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. We will look at a handful of works here throughout the space. So we will be walking and talking, but we'll spend enough time with each work. I'm hopeful that you'll be able to open your chairs and sit in. And it's my hope I have like a few questions that I'd love for us to talk through. Please remember these questions don't necessarily have right or wrong answers, but are more to really like engage us in conversation and thought. So the exhibition is called Posing Beauty in African American Culture, and it was originally curated by Deborah Willis, who is an artist, a photographer, an educator, a writer, and author, and then of course the curator of this exhibition. So the exhibition first opened in 2009 and has been traveling ever since, and it's traveled through many states, and then also has made it to Canada. So the exhibition is really, it really highlights Deborah Willis's ideas, which are these conversations about gaps in American history and American photography. So when she was a student, she was learning about photography, she was learning about photographers, and she found that there was this gap, right? That there wasn't much conversation about Black people who were photographers or Black people who were being photographed. So really her entire canon is really highlighting that, right? And really helping to add to this gap of knowledge. And it's really exciting to have this because as we're walking through this space, these are Black people that we'll see, and in most cases they're Black photographers, but then also, right, it adds to our knowledge of American history. There's this real nice flow within the exhibition that really highlights the fact that African American history is American history. And to have a well-rounded understanding of the history of America, it must include Black people. So the exhibition, there are over 100 works in the show, and they're mostly photographs, but there are two videos that we made a little quiet so that you all can hear each other and hear me better. So please, after the talk, we'll bring those back to volume and stick around or come back another day so that you can hear those at their full volume. And then there's also one collage piece. And then within the exhibition, the show is broken up into 3 themes, and we'll dive into those themes in each section, but they are constructing a pose, body and image, and model of beauty and beauty contests. And then so that means that each theme has about 33 works, give or take. It's about even. But when I was working on this exhibition, I was really excited about Deborah Willis and her conversation about how she separated the themes. And so the exhibition has been traveling for a while, and each curator that's on site, can really decide how they want to tackle the themes. And I decided that I thought it would be nice to include an icon on all of the tombstones. And a tombstone is this short blurb that gives you the name of the artist, the years that they were living and working, and then the title, the date of the title, and then the medium. And so on each of the tombstones, you will see icons, and I really wanted to include those because I felt like that was a nice way to think about how Deborah Willis was thinking about each of the sections and how the works relate to each other. We won't talk about this necessarily, but I hope as you walk through the galleries, you'll see that there are several works that are part of a series, but they're in different spaces, right? They're in different themes. And so really think about like why she would do that and want to have that conversation. And I felt that including, the icons would really help you to do that. And then I'm also, wanting to be sure that there were some connections and works that spoke to me that I felt like spoke to each other. So I hung them in that way. So I'll also say, if you are available on March 30th at 6 p.m., there'll be a conversation with me and Deborah Willis. So she'll actually be here in Gainesville. So I hope that you all will mark that on your calendars and come on to visits, and that'll be in the auditorium. So without further ado, we will just head right over here. Oh, yes, sorry. Please feel free to take the museum stools with you. They will come to you, and then you should be able to walk with them, and then you'll push them out, and you're ready to use them in the city. So I always like to start tours and talks that I did with this piece by Russell Lee. But before I dive into that, I do want to let you know that so right now we're in the theme that's called constructing a pose. So this is really thinking about historical photography and contemporary photography, thinking about the role of photographer and the role of the model and the subject, and then also thinking about, stage photography and natural photographs. So this first image is by Russell Lee, and what you see here, and I know it's small, so I hope as we're moving to the next space, you'll take a moment to look at this piece. But this is a photographer, a street photographer, taking a picture of a person. And so what I really like about this photograph, right, there are two entities that aren't in this photograph, right? The photographer, Russell Lee, and then us, the viewer, looking at this photograph. So what happened for me is while I was, preparing for this exhibition and reading Deborah Melissa's books and reading about this show, I was looking at a checklist that has small little thumbnail images. And so, there were images that came to be my favorite and images that I was like, oh, I can't wait to see those bigger. Like, I really want to be able to take a deeper dive into these photos, right? And then, all the works came, and there were some that were like, oh, yes, that continues to be my favorite. Or, oh, wow, I didn't notice, the small detail in this photograph. So what I like about this is in that process, right, there were things that I needed to learn, there were things that I already knew, there were things that I needed to know better. And I feel that as you walk through this exhibition, everyone in the space will at one time or another be all four of those people, right? So you might be the young child here, and what you're seeing is something that you know very well, it happened to you, this is your experience. There might be a time when you're the photographer, the street photographer that's here, right? And you're once removed, but you are familiar, but you're still, it didn't happen to you. Then there'll be the instance where you're Russell Lee, right? You are removed a bit, maybe you've heard of it, but you're needing to learn more. And then there's the instance where you're who we are right now, right? You're looking in, you're learning something completely new. So that, right, is an exciting parallel to me between this photograph and the people who view this exhibition, right? So we're talking about gaps in American history. It's important, to remember that we're always learning, and there's always opportunities to reaffirm history. And so that's what this image can do, and what hopefully you will do as you move through the exhibition. So if you all want to take a moment to look a little bit closer at this photograph, and then we will head this way. I tried to wear something bright, so hope you can find me. Yeah. That's okay. Okay, so now we will talk about this work by Harry, who is a photographer, well known for his activities, solo exhibitions, and has been many industry projects. So this was actually and it was of the Louisiana I tell you about this work, I'd love for you all to look and tell me what you noticed. And remember, like I said at the front, there aren't necessarily any wrong answers. We're really just opening it up for dialogue. Yeah.
One thing I noticed was the pattern of her clothing is like a log cabin quilt pattern.
Yeah, okay, so you said you noticed the patterning on the clothing, thinking maybe it might be a quilt. Okay, lovely. What else?
They're mirror images of each other.
Yeah.
And she's holding a mirror.
Yeah. So these are mirror images of each other, and she's holding a mirror. Yeah, what else? Yes.
Well, I often associate quilts with, repurposing fabric to save money, yet looks like a very elegant, expensive outfit.
Yeah,
So
right.
It's kind of a contrast.
So thinking about the contrast of how quilts might be made, or what we associate with, pieces of fabric, but then the elaborate, intricacies of the dress. Great, yes.
The historical perspective of the quilts being used for the Underground Railroad with giving messages to slaves and giving indications of what was going to happen and where they should be at a certain time.
Yeah, absolutely, wonderful. So the language of how quilts were used by enslaved people to talk about freedom and sex. Yeah, great. Anything else? Wonderful. Well, this is all really great conversation and quite true, right? So Carrie McWeens was commissioned to create this body of work. So it's a larger body of work that includes photographs and video, and then also there's a stop motion video that includes her narration. That's all thinking about what she calls the footnotes of history. So thinking specifically about the Louisiana Purchase and this idea that when we learn, or when Americans are learning in American history about the Louisiana Purchase, that is this positive experience, right? That for 3 cents for every acre, America was able to purchase as north as Montana and as south as New Orleans to be part of what we now know as America. And this was a positive thing. It allowed us, to have access to the New Orleans port and to have that Mississippi, but it doesn't, or Mississippi River, but it doesn't take into account the people that were living on that land, right? So there are between 50,000 and 100,000 people who were living in that space. And that included white settlers who spoke mostly French, that included Native people, and that included both enslaved and freed Black people. And so then there was this conversation that was really about what's going to happen to those people, right? So will the white settlers, will they become American citizens? What will happen to the Native people who, this was their land and now it's been purchased? And then what about the Black people, the enslaved and free Black people? What will happen to them? So what happened was there were lots of feuds and conversations, and as it relates to the enslaved Black people, this led to the American Civil War. And then for the Native people, this started, a treaty of forcibly removing them from the land. So she's really thinking about, right, that this history that seems positive, maybe on its face, now America has so much more land, but not really talking about, the painful history and the painful realization that happened for the people that lived in that space. And then she also created this dress out of different quilts. And she did that, again, like we discussed, talking about this idea of, taking bits and pieces and bringing them together and intertwining them to make something new, but then also really calling to the enslaved people who would create quilts with secret messages to help, themselves and other people escape from slavery. And then I should say that this is a diptych, and so what that means is this is a photograph that's to be shown together. And in the history of art, we talk a lot about diptychs, like having a hinge or, being physically connected. These are not physically connected, but they are to be read together. And then we talked about, for this area, right, we're talking about constructing a pose and really thinking about the role of the photographer and the model or the subject. Well, this is Carrie McWeens, and she uses herself as the subject for the entirety of the series. the Louisiana Project. So also really thinking about her role as both photographer and as the subject, and using this mirror to show these mirrored images, but then also this mirror as she looks at herself, and really tries to think about what it is about her skin and her personhood that makes people believe that she, does not deserve the freedoms that others have. So before we move to the next piece, anyone have any questions about this work? Or about constructing a pose as a whole, because we will be moving to the next thematic section. Yeah.
Not a question, but as a comment. Like, I think it's the same photograph printed as a reverse version of the original piece, right?
Yes.
So, as we are aware, our body is not completely symmetrical, left and right. Even if this is the same picture, same photograph, when we look at the picture in detail, we don't perceive the details as the same with the other. She's the same lady, same pose, but when you go through it, I think there is also another message for making these two pictures as a couple to be presented together. Is like when you change the perspective, looking something from this way or another way, the way you perceive things may change. This is what I told as well.
Yeah, no, that's great, and thank you for sharing this idea that, depending on how we're looking at an image, our perspective might change, and I think that is true. And so in the entirety of the series, she has these lovely works where, she's really thinking about her body and like if she is able to be in a space, right? So she goes to Louisiana and she is being photographed on like this bed of grass with plantations in front of her, and really thinking about like her body and its positionality. So I think you're absolutely right that she is thinking about perspective, and she talks a lot in the series about like in contemporary space, right, how she can be there, but fast forward, rewind, she wouldn't have been able to be in that space. So I think that's a great point about perspective. Any others? All right. And now we are in the section that's called Body and Image, and it's really thinking about the way that our bodies have been used to help us think about beauty. And so we'll start with these two photographs that are part of the same series by an artist named Omar Victor Diab, and he's a Senegalese artist who made this series while he was doing a residency in Spain. And I'll say that this is the first time that the artist used himself as a model. So this is him, and he has dressed himself up to depict to depict important Africans who had been living outside of Africa. And the series started, he hopes that this will be a continued series, but this series right now is about 18 works, and he's working specifically with the time period of the 15th to the 19th century. And so he wanted, so while he was in Spain, right, this was one of the first times he had been in a space where he was othered, right? He had been living in Senegal, was from Senegal, and now had moved to Spain, and like his otherness was really apparent for him. So he was thinking about how other African people throughout history had, been able to do amazing things being outside of Africa. So this first photograph is called Frederick Douglass, and it is modeled after a photograph by Samuel J. Miller. Here's the image. And then if you'd like, you can pass this around so you can see it more closely. And so that is the picture that Frederick Douglass this commission, so that means paid him to create this portrait because Samuel J. Miller lived in Ohio. Ohio had a strong population of people who were interested in ending slavery, and so he knew that by being able to see this photograph, that he would be that this could almost work like a rally call, right, to get people excited about abolishing slavery. So as that photo is moving around, let's talk. What similarities do you see between the photograph there by Miller and the photograph here by Dina? Yes?
Button tie.
What'd you say?
Button tie.
Okay, the button tie, yes. Looking here at the tie, some of the fashions, great. What else? Yes?
His direct gaze with the viewer.
Okay, nice. His direct gaze with the viewer. He's looking right at us in both. Yeah, what else?
Whistle.
The whistle, do you see that as a similarity or as a difference? Okay, nice, thank you. We will talk about the whistle in a moment. Yes?
The hair shape, even though it's different styles, the shape is similar.
Okay, yes, the shape of his hair. Different styles, but still gives a similar shape. Yeah, what else?
Suit jacket and vest.
Yes, okay, the suit jacket and vest, do you see that as similar or different? Okay.
You can tell the colors in the photograph, the old one, but it looks like a birthday vest.
Right, okay. Nice. What else? Yes?
They both look very serious and not smiling.
Okay, they both look serious and not smiling. Anything else? Yeah.
Yeah, it's both energy.
Yet they're both very dignified. So they're not smiling, they look very serious, but they also look very dignified. Lovely. What else?
You
Yeah.
say the color of his vest correlates with the color of the background.
The color of the vest matches the color of the background? Yeah. Great observation. I hope when you get closer, yes, they're the exact same pattern. Yeah. Great. Anything else?
So is this like Africa? Like it was in Spain, correct?
So he started the series. So Diop started the series while he was in Spain. Yes.
So he's
Whoa. Oh my
I
Sorry.
testing. So he started in Spain. So the dress code, did he try to correlate intervene put African culture with dress code into Spain as well, or Spain dress code into Africa? Did he try to really work it?
So you're asking, did his time while he was in Spain dictate the way that he depicted the clothing that he's wearing? Yeah, that's a good question. So I don't know. I can't answer that. He hasn't said anything about that necessarily, right? But I do think that you're right and that there, is a real conversation about being outside of Africa and what you have when you go somewhere else, right? So it would make sense to me that he would be thinking about African patterns and styles when he decided to style himself in this way. Yeah, great question. So someone brought up the whistle. So I should say, the artist is interested in thinking about historic figures, but then he also has this call to contemporary ideas. And he's very interested in soccer and soccer players. So in the entire series, all 18 of the works, you will see some call to sport in some way. So here you see this whistle. And I felt like the whistle could have been black, right? And if it were black, the shadow here, you might have lost it. But he purposely wanted to be visible, to call to this conversation of both the past and the present. And then we have here, we will take the painting this way. There you go. And we'll take the drawing this way. So I can't remember if I said, so I'll say again. So Diop uses, all of these portraits are modeled after either famous paintings or drawings. So he's really thinking about this idea of, being recognizable. And I should say in that conversation about recognizability, he was also really inspired by Frederick Douglass in the fact that he was the most photographed American man in the 19th century. So now thinking about being recognizable, we have here, this is Jean-Baptiste Belly, and he was born in Senegal, but then was sold into enslavement and moved to what we have, was forcibly brought to what we know now as Haiti. And then he ended up being part of the French army. And through that, he was able to acquire his freedom and then went on to fight for the abolishment of slavery, what we now know as Haiti and the Dominican Republic. And so the photo that's going around, so that is by a French painter named Jade, and he, that's actually, so that is a depiction of Belly, and he was really inspired by, this person who started off as a child of enslavement and being able to become a freed man, and then able to then later help people be free. So as you're looking at that, either the drawing or the painting, what do you notice that's different and similar between the drawing and the painting and this photo? And I guess I should say, sorry, so the drawing was done, like almost as a practice for what would then be the painting. And we do have, or we believe that there were other drawings that the artist created, but this is the one that we have the most access to. So sorry, my question was, what do you see as similarities and differences? And I saw your hand. Oh, maybe not. You read it. Sorry. Yes.
So something that I noticed that's different from the drawing, the painting, and the photograph, there's a complete focus on John Baptiste, and there's no statue of that John. It's completely on him.
Yeah. And what do you think that means?
I think it is centering him. I don't know if that statue of the hero, I think it's just giving him his full attention.
Right. Okay. Thank you. That's great. So this idea that the marble bust is missing, and so that makes it so all the attention is on Belly. Wonderful. What else? Yeah. Yes. So we have a soccer ball here. We have a boxing glove down here. Yeah. What else? Yes.
In the Jade painting, there's a reference to Haiti in the distance, but you can see some of the landscape. But we also have this concept of clouds, which we have in the painting here, but the idea of land and that.
Yeah. So in the painting, there's a connection to Haiti. You can see that in the background, landscape, clouds, and then here you can see clouds in the background. Great. Anything else? Yeah.
I'm guessing focus on him as a fighter because I didn't notice the boxing glove either. Oh,
I'm so sorry, I didn't hear you.
sorry. I noticed someone said there was a boxing glove as well. So noticing him as kind of like a fighter for enslaved people for the freedoms, as well as being a general in the French army.
Yeah, great. So this boxing glove showing him as a fighter, but then also thinking about, enslaved people being fighters. Yeah, great. Anything else? Was that?
Yes,
Yes.
I'm so sorry. I also noticed, I guess it's the boxing glove, the Haitian colors of the flag. So with the blue and white and then the red at the bottom, which I thought originally was the French flag, but now I'm thinking it's Haitian.
Yeah. So this call to the different colors representing the flags, maybe the Haitian flag, maybe the French flag. Great. Anything else? Wonderful. Well, right. I mean, everything that we talked about is spot on, right? So he has removed the bust of Reynal, who was a French Enlightenment philosopher who was really thinking about and wrote a lot about abolishing slavery. He's removed that bust, right? And instead has this soccer ball. You see no ties to land and really thinking about like landscape and freedom there. And then also there's this really interesting, conversation with his dress. So this idea of in the painting, the dress was purposely to call to this idea that Belly was part of the French army and was really, a person who was a civil servant for the people. So this idea that in the painting, his pantaloons go all the way down to his ankle as opposed to stopping at his Mies, which was the difference between someone who was working for the people and the aristocrats. And then there's also this like tie to the hat, which would be something that all people at the time would have worn. And so he's kept that, that feather. But again, now we're looking at a boxing glove and not a hat. This calls to, contemporary culture, but also calling back to the important iconographies that would have been in the painting. And then also, we talked a little bit about, for sure, with Frederick Douglass, but here also you'll see this like print that's around his waist. So as we move to the next phase, I hope you'll take a moment and just look more closely at these two photographs. And so does anyone have any questions about either of these before we move to the next phase? Yeah.
What is the white thing at down there by the red feather?
This right here.
Yeah.
This.
Yeah.
So he just talks about it being a tie that's like similar to this. He talks about how he used the same cloth for this and that.
Okay.
Yeah. But I don't know enough about French fashion at the time to say if that was like something that would have been wrapped around the hat along with the feather. Yeah. Yeah.
And then I noticed the bracelet on the wrist, also gives me a little bit more of a contemporary flavor to it.
Yeah, that is a great observation. So the hairstyle is different and also the bracelet. And as I was doing a little bit of research on the painting, they talked about how the dress, would have signified him as like a modern man, even though there was all this marble that called back to the past. Earrings that he had like gold hoops, and that was to signify enslavement. So I wonder if, instead of his ears aren't pierced, so they don't look to be, like instead of having that hoop to represent enslavement there, he did it the same with the bracelet to represent shackles. And interestingly enough, the bracelet is open, and we can see that, right? So this like breaking of the shackles. Yeah, wonderful. Okay, off we go. Take a moment, please, look at these, and then you can kind of fire back. And we won't necessarily sit and talk here, but as we walk into the next space, I'd love for you to take a moment to look at these photographs. They're both photographs unit at pageants. And spend some time here, and then there are also there's pageantry in places in this section. So now we're into modeling and beauty contests. So we're really thinking about the Black presses and how they were instrumental in creating spaces for Black women and Black men to showcase their beauty. So how look at these and then being around. Oh. So this photograph is by an artist named Renee Cox, and there are actually two works in the collection by the artist. She's a well-known artist who's really thinking about the ways that Black people have been portrayed in both media and contemporary culture. And she has many series, and the other piece that is in this exhibition is part of a different series, so it's really nice to at least get a little bit of an idea of the breadth of her work. This piece is called Chilling with Liberty, and it is part of a series where her alter ego, Jade, goes around and empowers and removes Black people and women from troubling situations. So she first showed this series in 1998 in a gallery in New York. And the most well-known photograph from that series is her, with in one hand there's Uncle Ben, and in the other hand there's Aunt Jemima, and this idea that she is taking them away from, a painful representation. And so here we have her, we see her in all her glory. You can see her bracelets, thinking like of other superheroes, and then you can see that her costume, her leotard has the Pan-African flag colors. So you'll see the red, the black here and there, and then the green, and then there's a little bit of yellow to outline each one of those, and that is a call to both her heritage as someone born in Jamaica, and then also thinking about the other African countries whose flags have yellow. So before I tell you a bit more about this piece and conversations about the Statue of Liberty, I'd love to hear from you what you see and how this photo makes you feel. Okay. Okay, it makes you feel like she owns the Statue of Liberty, okay? Yeah. Okay. Okay, this is worrying about how she might fall off. Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Her dress is kind of like a Wonder Woman.
Yes.
With the bracelets and
Yeah. So this idea that she kind of looks like Wonder Woman with the bracelets and the boots, definitely. Yeah. Yes. Yes.
I've never really had experience of the Statue of Liberty, but I think it's also an perception, and it kind of reminds me of like, Batman has this thing that he shows before he shows up.
This bat signal.
It's kind of like what like a sort of symbol of the Statue of Liberty for her, essentially. Like it's like what we see somebody.
Oh, nice. Okay, this idea that the Statue of Liberty kind of works as the superheroes like bat signal. Great. Yeah. Anything else? Yes. Uh-huh. Yeah. Great. So looking at the moods, really having your eye drawn to them, thinking about the potential significance of them. Yeah, great. Yes. Right, yes. Yeah, so having the lights on reminds us that people can be in there and how large Renee Cox would, Rajay would look here if someone were looking out. Yeah, great. And both of you had your hand up, so whoever would like to go first. I'm sorry, will you say that again? I want to be able to restate it. Okay, so taking down the Statue of Liberty so that she's not the only thing that you see when you come into the harbor. So, disimpacted it a little bit. Okay, nice. No, I appreciate that, and we will talk a little bit about that. Yeah. Did you have your hand up? Yeah, so a depiction of a powerful woman that, is taking space. Yes, definitely, yeah.
It seems to me that even though she has gotten to this point, she has a look on her face that she knows she's not done. That she's ready for the next challenge or whatever. So she seems a bit uneasy, comfortable, but yet knowing that she's got more to do.
Yeah, okay, great. This idea that she's comfortable but knows that there's more she must do. Great. You had your hand.
What you said, I just think that that's like a launching pad. She's on a liberty launching pad, but if she's Wonder Woman, there's a lot more to get.
Right, yes, okay, she's on this launching pad, there's more to get. Yeah, definitely. This is all great. Yeah. Are you sure?
Yeah, well, I was just interested, where are you from? I'm just interested in why you didn't see her as a black woman. Just a woman. Interesting. That's a concept we don't have here.
Well, I'll talk a little bit about the Statue of Liberty, and I think that some of the conversations that we've had so far on this section, I think will, have nicely illuminated the photograph hopefully for all of us. So the Statue of Liberty was a gift from the French with this real excitement after the Union had won the Civil War and that, slavery would be abolished. And so if you see here and you can't see it, so you can't see this unless you're looking over the Statue of Liberty. So, most people come in head on or down, so you don't see this. But, we have multiples, yeah. So you can see here that on the Statue of Liberty's feet, there are chains that are broken. So, this piece was really to commemorate the end of slavery. And W.E.B. Du Bois actually writes in one of his autobiographies about how he was coming back from Europe. He didn't see the Statue of Liberty as this empowering woman because it wasn't true, right? That there were still many fights that descendants of African peoples needed to do for freedom and justice and equality. So this idea that she is seen as freedom for some, and he really talks about in his autobiography, right? This idea that the immigrant's experience of seeing this and thinking of it as freedom is not the same experience for the previously or the currently enslaved people when they saw this monumental statue. And then, there's no conversation about the crown, and that the original title of the Statue of Liberty is the Statue of Liberty Enlightening All. So really France's idea that this call to abolish slavery would really permeate, all of Western countries. And, if that could happen, and really this goal of that being what the Statue of Liberty would do. So I think all these conversations that are really talking about, her sitting here and, strong and confident, but knowing that there's more work to be done. And really thinking about, her ability to free the Statue of Liberty and to really, allow her to do, what the goal was, right? To really think about the ways that Black people would go on to fight for their freedom and justice. So does anyone have any questions or any thoughts after now, seeing the shackles on the Statue of Liberty's feet or this conversation, anything they'd like to add? Okay, well, we're gonna just turn right around and look at these three photographs here. We'll look at these, but I'll stand over here. I don't need to see this per se. So these three photographs are by an artist named Gerard Baskin. And in the mid-1990s, he started to photograph the ballroom scene. So that is the then underground scene where queer, Black, and Latinx people would be with their chosen families that they call houses and would compete or walk in what were called balls. So what we see here are three different depictions of ball culture period, but like at different stages, right? So here we have Untitled Jade, and this person is getting ready for the ball. Here we have this is a depiction of the blue flare ball, and blue flare ball has been going on for upwards of 30 years. It's so popular that in 2019, Rihanna and Fenty sponsored the ball, and I really like this photograph. I put it in the center here because I think it has a nice call to where we started with the Russell Lee, and looking again, right, we have these mirrors, so we're able to see things and get deeper in the photo than we would if those mirrors weren't present. And then we have here, this is the state to state ball, which is another ball. And I also really appreciate, right, we're seeing, different types of balls, right? So this looks like it's in a gymnasium. There is like an upper level, but no one's there. But, as you get into this photo, we see that there are people on levels, like, we can see the popularity of these different balls. And so I wanted to have this conversation about visibility and equality, and I was thinking about the pageants that I asked you all to walk through, and then there's also a photograph here on this end cap that I'd love for you to look at. That is another photograph of women at a pageant. And so really this conversation about how the resilience of Black people and how when there isn't space for them, they make space for themselves, right? So those pageants, these are photographs of pageants that Black women were a part of because they weren't allowed to be in the white mainstream pageantry. And then here we see these three examples of balls and ball culture and this idea of being able to have self-expression here. So as we look at these, what do you notice? Might have to get closer. What'd you say?
There's mirrors.
Yeah, there are mirrors in all of them. So what do you think that means?
Those people are seeing themselves, even if the outside culture doesn't recognize them.
Okay, great. So these people are seeing themselves, even if the outside culture doesn't recognize them. Oh, I saw a hand over here. I don't want to point in case I didn't. But if anyone else has, yes.
Seems like there's an ownership of the mirror here, showing not only to each other but to ourselves, like taking the image for themselves and claiming them who they are as they are and then reflecting them.
Great. Yeah, so this idea of claiming yourself in the mirror, that it's for you, and then, like who you decide to share it with. Yeah, great, yes.
We're obviously backstage, so the backstage progresses to bringing your own backstage into a public arena.
You with the mirror?
It's still so private. It's so intense with the mirror. He might as well be backstage.
Right, yeah, that's very interesting, right? So this person is backstage, they're getting ready, and then this is clearly, part of the performance, but this person is still very, focused in on themselves and looking at the mirror. Yeah.
We're not losing the private.
What'd you say?
We're not losing the private.
Right, yes, yeah, great. Yeah, so we're not losing the private, we're still, able to see, how this person interacts with themselves. Yeah, great. What else? Anything else? Yes.
Also speaks a lot to like identity and about like different mirrors and what you present. Because mirrors, they also help you to create your identity and as a different person, like look at the blend with sometimes you have to put on a different image of what you are, but it's also still part of your identity. So I think mirrors really help create that part of
Yeah, great. This idea that these mirrors help to create who we are and shape our identity. And sometimes, we bring a different part of ourselves forward based on the space, and that these mirrors help us do that. Yeah, great. Anything else? Yes.
I'm finding myself a little trouble because I've seen videos of these events. And they're very active, lots of drama and performance and showing off. And so I don't hardly see they're all still like,
Oh, yeah.
very interior.
Yeah, okay, so you feel these photos are quite interior and they feel still? Yeah. Do they also feel like loud to you? Do you feel like you can hear the crowd?
Very selective to me.
They feel very selective.
All of that action.
Yeah. So this idea that these are, maybe read as still and quiet and, really focused on the people and they're, not a lot of attention to like the loudness and the action, how vibrant they are.
It's so big that when I feel like the institution, like the people in the middle, I feel like acting is about to make a point. And the crowd are about to listen. I feel that.
I'm waiting to see.
Yeah, I know that. She's pointing at something, I can tell.
Yeah, so this idea that there's this anticipation for what's next. Yeah, great. Anything else? Is that a hand? No, okay. Yeah, well, I think these are all really great points, right? And really do talk about, I think what the artist is trying to bring across. So he's really thinking about visibility and highlighting these different spaces and really showcasing their beauty. And so, the inclusion of these photos, and especially in the modeling beauty and beauty contest conversation, is again, really talking about creating space and being able to identify what you think of as beautiful. So,
Is this part of a larger decision?
it is, yes. So Gerard Gaskin really worked on this series until his death. So this was part of his master's thesis that he started in 1994 and then continued. There's actually a book. He's published at least one large book of these photographs. I should know the title, but it has both black and white and color images. But his name is Gerard Gaskin, so the book is called Legendary. Legendary, but there's a code, but that is the name. Yes.
When I look at these three, I'm reminded of how black and white photography stirs something so different from a photograph that's in color.
Mm-hmm.
And there's something in the black and white photograph that really draws me to the subject.
Yes.
Less than to the garment or the clothing, because I see the person. There's something powerful to me about a black and white photograph, and having these three put together just tells me what a difference there is with color.
Yeah, great. So thinking about how we read color photographs versus black and white photos, and thinking about how the black and white really draws us to the person's face, whereas the color allows us to focus in on the details of the dress and different clothing. Yeah, great. Wonderful. Well, we will speak to our last part. Oh, yes, yeah. So the question was reminding us of the icon. So this is a handheld mirror, and this is for modeling beauty and beauty contests. And then body and image, which is when we were looking at the Omar Victor Diop, the Frederick Douglass, and the Bentley piece, that was a black Afro kid. And then when we started constructing the pose, that was a blue camera. And so I can't remember if I said, but throughout the exhibition, there are a handful of QR codes where you can scan these and learn more information about a handful of the works. And then it also includes an audible portion so that if you don't want to read the text on your phone, you have the option to listen. And then on the title wall, we also have a print copy of that as well. So this idea that if you don't have your phone or don't want to use your phone or prefer to read on paper, that you have that option as well. So we'll end with this photograph by Lauren Kelly, and this was a work that was done as part of her master's thesis when she was at the School of the Art Institute of Chicago, and she made a handful of wearable sculptures. And how she made this work is she took several Afro pits and then she painted them gold. And the idea was that the piece would look both like a halo and as a crown to really talk about the importance of self-love and highlighting Black hair and Black beauty. So this is in fact a sculpture, and as you get closer, you can see like the details of how she has created the wearable sculpture itself and how she's used picks and clips to keep it in. So I hope you'll come closer and look at this work. And I purposely wanted them to be, wanted that piece to be in close proximity to these two photographs of women actually being crowned. So you'll see this woman is the Queen of Mardi Gras, and she has a crown on here, and then you can see here, this woman is being crowned. So this was the previous queen, and then this is the new queen. Does anyone have any questions about this work or the exhibition?
I was kind of surprised when you said this exhibition was put together in 2009, because so much has happened since 2009, and even with, I'm thinking, I didn't get my first iPhone until 2011, and I'm certain everyone having a camera now who has a smartphone, that's really changed the face of photography. So I don't know, I'm just wondering, when you got this, are you tempted, oh, I'd really like to add a few more photographs into this section?
Yeah, so, so because the exhibition has been traveling since 2009, and they're, for the most part, all photographs, there have been works that needed to rotate out of the exhibition. So Deborah Willis has, created updates to the checklist, has worked with the artist. So like, maybe it's not the same work by the artist, but part of the same body of work, or at least, like something that the same artist has created. So there has been, some changes throughout the times that the works have been on view. When I had a call with Deborah Willis a few weeks ago, she did ask us, did we add anything to the exhibition? So there is the option to do that, and we do. So we have work by Karamay Weems, which we looked at. We have work by Omar Victor Diop, who we looked at, and then we also have work by Teenie Harris. But we did not add anything to this exhibition. Yeah. Great question, though. Yeah. Any questions? Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for your time. It was lovely to chat with you. Thank you so much. I appreciated all of our conversation. Remember, the exhibition is open until June 4th. There are over 100 pieces, so I feel like we need to come back and back and back to really experience all of them. Thank you. Thank you.